So the Bengals spoke out today about both of their players that are holding out, and while one of these players seems to be trending towards something positive happening here soon, the other seems to be going in the opposite direction, and based on the responses from both parties here, especially Shemar's agent, this is not good, and that's putting it mildly. So I've got to talk about that, a couple of tough season-ending injuries, but also a couple pretty big paydays for some well-deserved players and more right after. Alright, first up, let's talk about a couple different injuries around the league, as we saw not one, but two players already surprisingly ruled out for the entire season. The first is Lions defensive tackle Levi Onwuzurike, who was placed on the PUP list last week with an undisclosed injury. Well, we found out yesterday from head coach Dan Campbell himself that Levi sadly tore his ACL at some point during the offseason and ended up having to get season-ending surgery to repair it. Detroit re-signed him on a one-year deal back in March, and after they drafted Tyleik Williams in the first round, they looked pretty stacked on the interior of their D-line. But now Onwuzurike is out for the year, plus Aleem McNeil and Mekhi Wingo were put on the PUP list last week, and it remains to be seen whether they'll be ready for the regular season or not. That's not even to mention Aiden Hutchinson, who is working back from that serious leg injury he suffered last year. He has been fully cleared and should be good to go for week 1, but will he be back to his usual self right away? Time will surely tell. It's not the ideal way to head into the season for the Lions because on top of all the injuries, they're dealing with a ton of turnover on the coaching staff. Get this, 8 of their assistant coaches from last year took jobs elsewhere for this season, including, of course, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. You can see the rest here on screen, but losing that many coaches is never ideal. It's sadly the cost of being successful, though, because then other teams want to try and recreate some form of that success with those coaches in their building. Now, on top of Onwuzurike being out for the season, Titans quarterback Will Levis has reportedly decided to undergo shoulder surgery that will keep him sidelined for the entire 2025 season. Last year, Levis sprained the AC joint in his throwing shoulder in September and re-injured it not once, but twice throughout the season. It hasn't healed how they hoped it would over the offseason either, with Schefter reporting that Levis has been unable to shake the discomfort and the shoulder is still bothering him. Per a statement from the Titans themselves, they said that after consulting with doctors and his representation, Will decided to undergo season-ending surgery. So, with him out for the year and with Mason Rudolph now back in Pittsburgh, this all but assures Cam Ward is the starting quarterback for Tennessee in week 1. Not a huge surprise there, but I am more concerned about the backups after Cam Ward because right now it's Brandon Allen and Tim Boyle. So not ideal if Ward goes down with an injury, which is why it would not shock me at all if they brought in another veteran quarterback, maybe even a reunion with Ryan Tannehill, who wasn't on any team last year but isn't technically retired. Next up, the Seahawks moved on from tight end Noah Fant yesterday, releasing him after 3 seasons in Seattle. I'm not sure how many people saw this coming, but it's not all that shocking when you realize that this will save Seattle nearly $9 million against the salary cap. Plus, they drafted a tight end in the second round, Elijah Arroyo, who was a very solid pass catcher in college. AJ Barner is another guy they're excited about. He was their 4th round pick from last year, and even though he was known more as a blocker in college, he still hauled in 4 touchdowns during his rookie campaign. So it's a young tight end room now, but I think they feel pretty strongly about it moving forward. As for Fant, he's still just 27 years old, and while he maybe hasn't lived up to the hype of being a first-round pick, he's still been a very consistent, serviceable player and could maybe be a starter somewhere, even if that's as a high-quality number 2. Seattle acquired him from the Broncos back in 2022 as part of the massive Russell Wilson trade, and his first season there was probably his best with the team as he caught 50 passes for nearly 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. Since then, he's scored just 1 touchdown over the last 2 seasons, so not great from a production standpoint, but hopefully he's able to have a bounce-back year wherever he ends up next, and since he is a vested vet, he doesn't have to clear waivers and should be free to sign with any team that's interested in him. And then I talked about this on my main channel, HBTC, but over the weekend, Kansas City handed out a pretty decent extension to pass rusher George Karlaftis. It's a 4-year, $93 million deal that includes $62 million guaranteed, and this makes Furious George the 10th highest paid edge rusher in terms of annual salary, which is a good value for the Chiefs, especially with the way the edge market has been exploding recently. In 2 years, this contract is going to look like a bargain, and here's why. Amongst all edge rushers since 2022, Karlaftis ranks 6th in pressures, 15th in sacks, 11th in QB hits, and 2nd in batted down passes with 13, and that is not even including his stats from the playoffs. So, I am 100% behind paying him and not waiting until it gets even more expensive to do so next offseason. Hopefully they're able to do the same with cornerback Trent McDuffie, the Chiefs' other first-round pick from that same draft class, but he's probably going to demand a top-of-market deal, so that is not going to be easy. So while some teams are locking up their best players, others like the Cincinnati Bengals are having a little harder time doing so. Their training camp starts on Wednesday, and as of right now, it doesn't look like either Trey Hendrickson or Shemar Stewart will be there, even though I am more optimistic about one rather than the other. Trey Hendrickson has been on the record saying he won't play without a new deal, despite Bengals front office executive Duke Tobin saying today that every player under contract should be at camp. Team owner Mike Brown did say he thinks a deal will get done with Trey, but when? Trey is after a longer deal with more guarantees, and with TJ Watt just resetting the edge market once again, I'll be very curious to see if a deal gets done and what the details end up being for Hendrickson. For what it's worth, since he has made several offers to Hendrickson, with Ian Rappaport saying that they made another recent one over the last couple of days, so maybe their most recent offer will be enough to get Hendrickson to sign. Now, regarding their first-round pick, Shemar Stewart, the lone remaining unsigned first-rounder in all the league, he posted this picture to his Instagram story just this morning, showing that he is still working out at Texas A&M, training at their facilities. I broke it down last week, but there was some speculation that Shemar could return to college if he didn't end up signing his rookie contract. There were legal hoops he'd have to jump through, and it didn't really seem all that likely, even though, yes, he has been at his former college working out. Well, we can officially put that to rest, as Texas A&M's coach Mike Elko appeared on SportsCenter recently and said, quote, "There's no intentions of Shemar to play for the Aggies this year." He did confirm that he's been around and working out, but said that's training in order to get ready for the season with the Bengals. So there you go, not headed back to college, but his status for training camp is still very much in the air, because until he signs his rookie contract, he is legally not allowed to even practice. And who knows when this is going to happen? There's a disagreement over a specific clause in his contract that states a default, like a suspension, could void all of his future guarantees throughout his entire deal instead of only the year that the default occurred in. A lot of other teams around the NFL have this language in their contracts as well, so it's not extremely rare here, but the Bengals are introducing it this year, and Shemar and his representation are not happy about being the first ones on the other end of it. Since he's front office executive Duke Tobin spoke on it today and made it pretty clear that he doesn't agree with Shemar or his agent on their position.
You know, I don't blame Shemar. He's listening to the advice that he's paying for. I don't understand the advice. I don't agree with it. I'm not the one paying for it.
He also said that this holdout really doesn't benefit anyone here. Shemar needs all the reps he can get as a rookie, plus time to know all of the coaches and teammates. And part of that is true, but we haven't seen any indication from Shemar that he plans on folding anytime soon and actually signing his deal. Owner Mike Brown called it a very peculiar thing, and that his agent wants it to be that if he acted in a terrible fashion, to the level of even going to prison, that we'd be on the line for the guarantee. Well, no, not really. The agent just wants the same deal that every other Bengals player has gotten in franchise history. Even the veterans that re-signed with the team this offseason, like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, do not have that language in their contracts, so Shemar was literally the first one. He and his agent's argument has been, if we're supposed to be a Super Bowl contender, then why don't you just wait to introduce this clause until next year, when you'll be selecting lower in the draft? Regardless, this is one of the wildest situations and holdouts I've seen in quite some time, and it's going to be very interesting to see what ends up happening with this one, because after Duke Tobin spoke and said all of that about the contract situation with Shemar, this is what his agent, Zach Hiller, had to say about it. He said, "Duke Tobin has had no involvement in this negotiation. It seems to be above his pay grade." Well, that's a pretty crazy response, if you ask me, and it seems like the situation is not any closer to getting resolved. And while Shemar and Trey Hendrickson are the big stories in Cincy right now, it is worth mentioning that the Bengals signed a quarterback over the weekend, with that being Desmond Ridder, bringing him back to the city where he played college football. Ridder was a third-round pick by the Falcons back in 2022 and got a shot at being the starter in 2023, but it didn't go great. In the 15 games he started, he threw 12 touchdowns and 12 interceptions, while the Falcons went 7-10 and missed the playoffs. From there, he signed with the Raiders last year and did make a few appearances after injuries to both Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, but it was nothing special, and Vegas let him walk in the offseason. Well, now he finds himself in Cincy, where I assume he'll be fighting for that QB3 spot behind, obviously, Joe Burrow and then Jake Browning. Another quarterback to sign today was Tyler Shough, who finally agreed to terms on his fully guaranteed rookie contract with the Saints. It took some time, but they got it done. It had been reported that Shough was holding out, wanting 100% fully guaranteed contract, as there's a good chance he winds up being a starter for New Orleans this year. Derek Carr shockingly retired this offseason, and the other quarterbacks on the roster are Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener, two guys who didn't look great in their limited opportunities last year. This may be one of, if not the grimmest quarterback situation in the entire league right now, but who knows? Shough could come out and shock everybody. It's just always a difficult task to have such lofty expectations for a rookie quarterback, especially when you have a newly hired head coach in Kellen Moore. Right now, the only second-round pick from picks 33 to 40 that doesn't have a fully guaranteed contract is running back Quinshon Judkins, who's still unsigned as he's dealing with a DV charge he was recently arrested for. That might cause him to lose any leverage he had, and he might end up being the only draft pick in this range to not get a fully guaranteed deal, but that's just my best guess at this point in time. Anyway, enough of the second-round draft pick talk, because we need to talk about a fourth rounder that just got a long-term deal done with his team, and that is going to be Packers offensive tackle Zach Tom. He was a fourth-round draft pick a few years ago, part-time starter, but then the last couple of years has been their right tackle. He's played at a super high level too. If you look at this before I get into the details of his deal, 6th overall PFF grade among all offensive tackles in 2024, 3rd in his run block grade, and he had the 2nd best pass block grade amongst everybody on the O-line for the Packers last year. Anyway, the details on this contract is a 4-year, $88 million extension with a max value of $92 million, and per Spotrac, Zach Tom is now the 9th highest average paid offensive tackle in football. He's going to slot down just below Jordan Mailata, or tied really with him from an APY standpoint. But that is what you do if you have a guy that's playing well. You don't even give him a chance to hit free agency, and you get his deal done early, like we just saw the Chiefs do earlier on when I talked about it in this video with defensive end George Karlaftis. You save a lot of money that way, especially if you believe in this guy and you want him to be around for years to come. They got a great quarterback over there in Jordan Love that they really need to protect anyway. So, hey, the more guys you have out there blocking at a high effective level, the better. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on that, the Bengals holdouts, what you think's going to happen with that situation, as well as if you think Quinshon Judkins is going to get a fully guaranteed deal or not once all is said and done. And with that, I'll see y'all next time.